Hello, this is the first video of 3 that are going to examine average age methods for learning the piano. And the first method in this video that is going to be examined is Alfred Premier's method. And first, to take a look at how this method is laid out, they begin by, well, really the first page is rhythmic values, but they of course reinforce this later. However, I think importantly they begin by how you sit at the piano. So first and foremost, they are setting up good habits from the get-go. And this is followed right by proper hand technique and finger numbers. And there's even an exercise in which the student is to move certain fingers as indicated, so that they become very familiar with what finger is what, so that when they get to the keyboard, it's going to be a lot easier for them to process. They introduce quarter notes right after this, except it's off the staff, and they introduce it as being one count, so really it's a rhythmic exercise. And what they do is that they tap only in the left hand and right hand, but they already group it in 4, as you can see if I bring this closer. They group them in 4 as if precursing, or as a precursor to when they divide things later by bar lines. Now, there's a teacher accompaniment with this too, so that even as they tap, they feel the musicality. They can inherently feel the beat, feel the pulse, really get a sense of what rhythm is inherently. They go to then introducing this concept here to the 2 black key groups on the keyboard, where they're actually playing 2 black keys in each hand based on the rhythm and the pattern. So left hand, left hand, just like we did with the tapping, but they alternate. There's also an accompaniment for the teacher, so that in this way they're still feeling they're playing something musical and inherently feeling rhythm and musicality. This starts to go somewhat intervallically now, in the fact that they play one note, and as it goes down, they play the lower note, and vice versa. And this goes on with teacher accompaniment, and they really stay off the staff for quite a while. Now here you'll see that they're incorporating the bar line regularly, and they introduce the half note. It's a very gradual process, so that it's very reinforced. Nothing is introduced too quickly. Then they begin to group them together, the quarter notes and the half notes. Still with teacher accompaniment, they also introduce forte and piano. Now, as a side note, some of the supplementary additions that they have here include theory, which this is a great example because they will reinforce and address dynamics, terminology, rhythms in the theory book as separate exercises. This is very helpful. And they also address technique, which, as we saw at the beginning of the lesson book, they talk about the good shape, but that's reinforced in the technique book. And as you'll see, some of this actually looks quite similar to the method repertoire, except the focus in the instructions is how they're playing it versus what they're playing. So this enforces the technique, and this enforces the theory here. And in terms of musicality, that is further enforced by their performance book, in which, again, the repertoire looks somewhat similar to the repertoire in the lesson book here, except that they focus on the musicality with certain instructions. Such as here, they talk about dynamics. They personify things to really get the student to internalize what the difference should sound like. And now this is generally available up through the courses. There's 4 courses here, most of which have, well, all of them have the lesson, and most of which have the performance, but as you get higher up, the performance seems to turn into more masterworks, which is in level 3 and 4, which actually are easier pieces of actual composers of the repertoire, so that they can play and really be feeling they're playing legitimate composers' repertoire, which is a nice feeling for them. They also have duets at this level to be played as an ensemble. Other supplementary materials include the jazz, rags, and blues, which are available in levels 1 and 2, just to give them something different, something more creative, give them another facet of creativity and musicality. And then, of course, there's also the at-home book, which this book is very important, especially for the early beginner, and it goes through level 2. This book is a place where the parent and teacher can express their thoughts, their feelings, so parents to the teacher, teacher to the parents, and the student can write down what their practice is for the week, maybe some suggestions on how to practice. And then this book also includes stories in which can maybe stimulate the student's creativity, especially at the beginning level when things may not seem as exciting or it feels more like learning than it is fun. And this is a great supplement, and it really adds to the well-roundedness of the overall music education. So that is an overview on the Alfred Premier method, and this will be followed then by the Bastion method.